Hello there, wrestling fans, and welcome to a very big episode because this is like the end of the season. We're in December, and this is another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm your host, Joe Panther III, and man, this was such a great year. I still have so many episodes to come, but today I have a gentleman that is returning to Dudes at Ringside podcast. This gentleman is doing so many things right now. He is from he's just doing so many things. Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome return to PJ Savage. Welcome back, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate Dudes at Ringside podcast, man. Had a great time last time I was on, so I'm looking forward to this episode, man. Thank you again for having me on, man. It's a pleasure to be back.
No problem, Poppy. Like, it's been a while, and I love my Long Island people. Long Island really has a place in my heart. So, if this is someone that's listening to this podcast on Spotify for the first time, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm PJ Savage, indie wrestler superstar, man. I'm on the come up. I'm on the buzz, man. If you don't know my name now, you're gonna hear it again. I represent everything New York City. I am New York City. I'm the embodiment. If you took New York City and put it into a professional wrestler, it's PJ Savage. And it comes from the passion, the grind, the grit, everything. And I just wear my determination and my passion on my sleeve, man. That's me. It's no gimmick. It's just PJ Savage the person, PJ Savage the wrestler is the same damn thing. It's no character here.
Awesome. That's awesome, PJ. But I want to have you do this. Let's go way, way back from when you very, very first started. What made you walk through the doors of that training facility that you started in?
Yeah, man. So for me, it all goes back to my grandmother. My grandmother was a huge influence on me just in life, period. She basically kind of raised me, man. My mother was working full time for a bank. So she couldn't really be home. I grew up without a dad. So my grandmother was just always with me. And my grandmother's bonding time with me was watching wrestling, man. And when I tell you we watched everything, we watched everything. We watched WWE, we watched Monday Night Raw, we watched SmackDown on Friday nights, we watched AAA Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. We watched ECW together. My grandmother was crazy, man. She was an amazing woman. I love her and miss her to death. She's the reason my whole love for professional wrestling started. My first event, my uncles took me. It was WrestleMania 10. That was my first ever event that I ever walked into. Walked in the doors of Madison Square Garden, saw Bret Hart win a WWE Championship, and the story was just done for me. But when it comes to my journey into walking into the doors of professional wrestling to start training, I was in a really dark time in my life, and around like 2014, 2015, just a man battling mental demons. And every platform I usually get, I like to talk about mental health, especially for men, because we don't talk about our feelings, man. We hide everything. We don't let everything out. We carry a lot on our shoulders. It doesn't matter if you're a big man with muscles, a little man that just walks around or plays video games all day, or you just whatever you do day to day. Men, our mentality is always the same. We carry everything on our shoulders. It's like we're Atlas and we're trying to carry the world above us, and we just hide everything. And that was me, 2014, 2015. I was just in a really dark place, had no one to talk to. And what we usually do is we find an escape through other means. So that's why, like men, we either get into video games or reading or creative, diving into work, whatever the case may be. And for me, it was just always wrestling, man. I had got out of wrestling for a while I was a teenager. I grew up on the Attitude Era. I grew up on WCW. I grew up on the Monday Night Wars. And when Stone Cold and Rock and all those guys left, around the invasion started, I kind of like peeked back out. I was like, I don't want to watch it no more. That's for kids. And CM Punk got me right back into it. He was one of those guys that really got me into it. And I'm talking like CM Punk when he was doing Ring of Honor. Like that was a guy that I was watching, so it really got me into the indies. Really was into Ring of Honor, and became one of those fans that was like, I only watch underground stuff. So I was watching New Japan, I was watching Ring of Honor and all that stuff. And Kevin Steen was another guy that helped me get through stuff, man. And I carried all of that to about 2016, 2015. And I lived right across the street from the Barclays Center, like right across the street, man, like right there. And this is when the Barclays Center first opened. And I remember I was working a horrible job, just grinding me, man, just grinding me. And I would come Monday nights or whether it be Fridays where they would have the events. And I would come out of work and walk past and see the best fans in the fucking world. The best fans in the world, man. Wrestling fans, bar none. No greater fan than a professional wrestler fan. They love us to death. Wrestling fans stick with you from childhood all the way to the day they go, man. And there's something special about that. And I remember just staying there, man. And I would go to the back and I would try to, like you sneak back there, try to see the wrestlers going into the building. And it was just one of those moments for me where I was watching the production truck, and it was just like you get a high from that, man. You get a high from being at a wrestling event, being around those fans, taking it in. And then I remember just saying, man, it'll suck when it's gone tomorrow. Those wrestlers in that building, they get to live that every day. Yeah, it comes with so many other things. It comes with traveling. It comes with missing out on your family. It comes with so many things that take you out of life. But that's a high that I wanted, man. It was something that I craved, and it was with me. It was something that got me through depression. It was something that got me through so many bad things in my life. And it was like, no disrespect to the fans, but I don't want it to be gone tomorrow. I don't want that high. I don't want that feeling to just go away. I got to do it. I got to become a wrestler. And then I went to, I believe the event was called, it was either Final Battle or Best in the World, Ring of Honor, Jay Lethal versus Jay Briscoe. And man, when I tell you those guys, especially for me being a fan, everybody wearing Bullet Club shirts and everybody doing this, just watching those two guys, I'm talking Black Machismo, guy in TNA who wasn't supposed to be anything. Jay Briscoe, who was supposed to be just a tag team guy. And they took over the wrestling world. Like that inspired the hell out of me. It was like, I think I could do it, man. I think I could do it. And I worked up the courage and started looking for wrestling schools. I remember finding for me, I'm a New York City boy, so I'm right in Manhattan. So I wanted something close to me, and I wanted the city. So for me, one of the aspects in looking for a school was very much what's going to be the start of my documentary, what's going to be the start of my story, and I wanted that to be in the city. There was a lot of great places in Long Island, a lot of great places in Jersey, but I wanted the start of my story to be in New York, and it was House of Glory, Amazing Red. I was like, that's great. And then somebody told me about another school called the World of Unpredictable Wrestling. It was run by WWE Hall of Famer Johnny Rodz.
Mm.
And a light bulb went off. And it was like, ooh, it's trained by WWE Hall of Famer in Gleason's Gym in
I
Brooklyn,
know
New
what
York, a
you yeah.
place that made Mike Tyson and all these other boxers and just molded men. And I was like, I could be in that grind. That's a good start to my story. So I went down there, did an interview with Johnny, and I kid you not, I walked into Johnny's office at 10:30 in the morning, and he drove me home that night at 11 o'clock at night. I
Mm.
stood all day long, and it was the first time in my life that I got that feeling, that high, without being at a wrestling event, without being around the fans, without being around the pyro, just being there, being in the grind, seeing all the pictures on the wall, being surrounded by the history and learning it. And that was the moment for me. It was like, yeah, I'm not leaving this. So I started in with Johnny Rodz, man. And Johnny, in my opinion, is the greatest trainer of all time. Him and Killer Kowalski, 1A, 1B, just right there. And another one, Vern Gagne. Those three guys, for me, are like top tier trainers that you can learn from. And the fact that that was still around. When you look at somebody like Killer Kowalski, who's not around no more, but his history is still around all of New England. And when you look at Vern Gagne, Minnesota, everybody still talks about Vern in Minnesota. And Johnny, with the history he has, he trained basically all the ECW guys. He helped Paul with ECW. He trained Vince Russo, who ended up being one of the greatest writers for WWE in the Attitude Era. And then look at Taz, the Dudley Boys, and then Big Cass. There's so many other guys that he had his name and his hands on. I was like, this is a great start for me. And I remember my first day there, I got trained by Matt Stryker. Another guy who was just from the city, Long Island, Bay Area, all that stuff, man. And Stryker really molded me, man. And one of the moments, because I have a lot of confidence. PJ Savage, as a guy with a lot of confidence. He could tackle the world, and he's going to be the greatest of all time one day. And that confidence came from Johnny. One day we was in his office. I think it was like second, third day training, and Stryker was there. And Stryker is claim to fame. You know, he called 8 main event WrestleManias. He was on the call for 8 of them. And Johnny looked at me. He saw my eyes. He saw that twinkle in my eyes. And Stryker walked out the room, and he goes, "You want that to be you, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "How about you main event 8 WrestleMania? Why not you?" And brother, that was it. That was all I needed, man. That was all I needed. And then fast forward 7 months in, and I was facing Bobby Lashley right before he went to WWE, man. 7 months in.
Wow.
So that's the start of PJ Savage. That's the beginnings of me, man.
So, what did it feel like to be the one that wrestled Bobby Lashley before he went up and became that phenom that he is now?
Man, that was awesome because I always had an eye on Lashley. I always followed the product, even though if I didn't watch it too closely, I always watched the pay-per-views. When they restarted ECW, of course, I was a fanboy, loved ECW, big fan of Paul Heyman, study everything Paul does. So just getting my hands on Lashley, man, and just knowing all his history. And then what added to it was just me being about 7 months in, 8 months in at the time, wrestling in one of the big venues in Queens called La Boom, which is like, for me, like that was the place I actually debuted, like just 7 months prior to that. So just getting to know that he was going to WWE, because I think it was a month before the match that I knew I was wrestling in, and they pulled me into the room and it was like, "We're gonna give you the match versus Lashley," and I was like, what? I'm a big dude, I get it, but like this is a little soon. But you know what? I'm not even gonna say that to you, Johnny, because the moment I say that, you're gonna pull me out that match. And Johnny
Yeah,
had a
kind
good
of.
connection. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you don't think you could do it? Oh, you're not doing it. But Johnny had a really good connection with Mexico and a lot of AAA guys. And at the time, Crash was starting up. So Conan, who was at TNA at the time, well, Impact, who was working with Lashley and Santana Ortiz, they were doing a lot of stuff with Crash, which Rey Mysterio was a part of. So there was huge influx of guys that were coming in just to face us because we worked with Johnny's school. So at that time there was like little rumblings of like, oh, maybe Conan wants to see you. And then me knowing how I look and knowing about LAX and knowing that they just started it, Kingston was back there and Santana Ortiz was there. And it was like, well, maybe I could try to sneak into that group or just try to get into AAA or Impact. So I was hyped up, man. It was like the confidence was there. And then I'll never forget, I watched CM Punk's documentary. And he always talks about when Eddie Guerrero got fired from WWE and was doing indies. And CM Punk always talks about the time he got told he was getting ready to face Eddie Guerrero on the indies. And he took that as his moment of, can I hang? Can I do it? Can I be with somebody who was under the bright lights, the pyro, the big stage in front of 80,000 people? Can I wrestle someone of that caliber and hang and really get over and do my thing? So that's what that was for me, man. That's exactly what that was for me, man. And it was such an amazing experience being in the ring with that man. He's a monster. He's an animal. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He's from going to MMA to going back to WWE and doing everything that Lashley does. His whole collegiate background and army background. The man's a monster, man, and he's one of the sweetest human beings. He was somebody that even stood in touch afterwards because we just had nice energy, man, in that ring. And you don't find chemistry when you work with people, and just being in that ring with him, he knew I wanted it, man. And there's a clip, you could go watch the match on YouTube, where Lashley's walking around the ring, and I made it for damn sure. My eyes were gonna be locked on his eyes, and he was gonna notice me when he came out that curtain, and I was gonna make him feel me. And I remember him coming out the curtain and walking all the way around the ring, and our eyes, and you can see it on the video, we did not stop looking at each other. It was so intense. And I wanted that moment where I walked right into him and we stood face to face with each other, nose to nose, eye to eye, and just two guys ready to go to war with each other. We did, man. He ended up spearing me through the barricade that night, too. So it was a cool experience, man. It was awesome. It was something that would always stay with me, and it's also where a lot of my confidence comes into, where I get these big matches on the indies where I face guys like Homicide, Chris Dickinson, so many guys that I've faced, Kobe Carino, faced him in North Carolina. That confidence wouldn't be there if I didn't face Lashley so early on.
That's awesome. You had a chance to like be in the ring with like a guy that's now the name that everybody talks about with Lashley. So
Yeah.
like when you the week of like a wrestling show, Savage, what is it like for you? Do you like what is your schedule like between like work and wrestling and stuff like that? What is it like?
A lot of times, especially the week before the show, when it comes to training, you try to go light. You try to just make sure you don't overdo anything to get hurt the week of the show. I always say the day after the show. Now, when you working every weekend and it's a little bit different. At the time with Johnny's, our shows were every 6 weeks, so I didn't get the reps that I needed at the beginning. But I kind of treated it like a training camp, where it was like, okay, first week I'm going heavy, second week I'm going intense, making sure I'm sweating like crazy and doing everything I can to get my cardio up. And the week of is just taking it slow, making sure my footwork is there, the technique is there. And then when it comes to work, man, your mind doesn't get off of it. Your mind's on it 24/7. You're thinking about it, especially when you got a big match like Bobby Lashley. Like all you're thinking about, you're daydreaming, man. You're thinking about your entrance. You're thinking about the moment. If you win, how are you gonna act? You're thinking about interacting with the crowd. That moment I talked about standing in the ring with him and being nose to nose and face to face. You daydream about those moments, man. That it doesn't come out in your mind. And for me, I have like a little ritual. Like 2 days before my show, I pack my bag 2 days prior, so that way any nerves they start then. Because then once the show day comes, it's like, well, I was nervous 2 days ago. Like I'm not nervous now. Like it all kicks out of it. My body's already going. So that's kind of my little like routine that I get into. I used to be horrible show day. Show day, I wouldn't eat a damn thing. I would just drink water and maybe eat a protein bar or some eggs in the morning. And man, I remember one time I came out and I think I was facing Willie Mack. I was facing Willie Mack and La Parka. And again, I was probably a year and change in wrestling for Johnny's. And I came out the curtain and you could see the entrance. You could see I almost pass out on my entrance. You let the adrenaline hit, you come out, yell, whatever the hell you do. And I had a moment of like, oh, okay, all right, can't do that no more because I'm about to pass out. Now I got to wrestle 20 minutes with these guys. So I've kind of fixated my routine a little bit better just to be smart. And as you are longer in the game, you're wiser. Like now I do yoga 3 times a week. I take care of my body. I take a hot bath after every show. Because now my shows are more frequent. Now I'm wrestling 3 times a week and 4 times a weekend, and I'm doing it every weekend of the month. I'm blessed that way now. So the calendar is like full and it's booked up, and so it's awesome, man. It's an awesome experience. It's a different mindset into every because once you get to the big leagues, I can't wait to get there. It's probably going to be completely different. I know you're on the road 4 days out, so you're probably leaving, getting ready to go to the airport, making sure you gym, you eat, you do all those things, and making sure you're the first one at the venue. Because I'm gonna make sure I'm the first one at the venue and the last one there, and I got to see who's the first guy there. So if it's if it's Vince McMahon or Triple H getting here at 10 a.m., I got to beat them. I got to be there at 9:50. You know what I'm saying? I got
Imagine
to
you
beat
walk,
them.
you're standing there, Vince McMahon's coming in with his coffee and he's saying, "What the hell are you? What are you doing here now?"
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah, but that's the moment, man. Like, and that's kind of what I got from Johnny, man. Like, when I first hit the Indies, I used to ride with a bunch of dudes from the school who were young and just didn't get it, man. And I always wanted to be the first one there. I always wanted to help with the ring. I always wanted to be the last one out the building. I take pride in that. Yeah, it sucks. I have family. I have kids. I have a wife at home. I spend a lot of time away from them. Um, it's just a part of the business. I'm just very lucky that I have an amazing family that wrestling is number one. Is wrestling is number one. It's the only thing we all think about, dream about. It's our avenue to success. We're gonna make a living out of this. I'm gonna start a school one day. That's one of the dreams of mine. My son and my daughters want to get into it. So my daughter, my oldest is 14, and she's 2 years away from training full time. She already knows a lot of stuff. My youngest is my little 4-year-old son Lucas, who's probably gonna do it before all of them. He's super into it. So the whole family is based around professional wrestling. So I've been lucky and blessed to have the support system that we have because it's not just me; it's everybody.
So you work with the SATs now. You're part of Win. So what does it feel like to work with people like the SATs that have been in the business for like forever?
And I can't tell you what that means to me. I don't think I'll ever be able to sum it up. Just to be around and like, man, come on, like I'm coming from Johnny Rods, and now I'm with the Maximos. Now I'm with the
Shout out to
SAT.
the
Like,
SATs. I gotta have them back on the podcast because that's family right there. Those
yeah,
boys have
man.
really helped out this podcast and help you out, man. Like,
Yeah,
go
for
on with
sure,
the
man. If
SATs.
it
Thank you,
wasn't for
people.
them, I would have never did Puerto Rico this year. Wouldn't have had so many of the opportunities that have come my way. They were the first guys that really looked at me and were like, "You got something. We believe in you." That same passion that they had, man, and just knowing, bro, like knowing that I did follow the indies from such a young age, watching them at Ring of Honor, watching them do even old school TNA, man, like they were in it. Them with Red, like I remember all of that. That was one of the reasons why I looked at House of Glory is because I knew that history. I knew the SAT history, man, and it's a special thing to be next to them, bro. It's and to learn from them and just to pick their brains. And I remember the last show we had, bro. It was me standing in the ring with the SAT, fighting off these guys or whatever the hell it was, man. And that was a moment for me that in the ring I marked out a little bit, bro. I gotta be honest, man. There's been a
Mm,
couple moments where, as a wrestler, you're not allowed to mark out no more. You just one of the trainers down at Johnny's used to call it evolutions, the next stage of evolution. We became fish, came out the water, became humans, whatever the fucking case may be. And then the next stage of evolution is sitting in that crowd and slowly getting over the guardrails, slowly walking into the side of the ring and then coming up and climbing into it and becoming one of them. And if it wasn't for them, bro, it wouldn't get to this point that I'm at now. So it's awesome to be a part of them and to be a part of their history and to be the next. I'm gonna carry their legacy now. Like I'm all forever a SAT guy. Everybody thinks of me as an SAT guy now. I'm one of their guys. So there's a lot of stock that goes into PJ Savage, the character and the person, and they are a heavy, heavy part of it. And wrestling is now is a special company that they have, man. I know they did different companies in the past, but this one, man, this one just feels special. It feels different. The roster is one of the best rosters I've ever been a part of. Of course, the tag team roster that they have together, Miracle Generation, the new Backseat Boys, and that's just naming the tip of the iceberg for them. The Audacity, Slime Balls, the tag team division is bar none second to no one. It's the best on the independent scene, and the heavyweight championship and the singles division that they have, they're smart, man. The way they did it, they looked at guys, and let's be honest, on the indie scene, it's about the flippy guy. It's about the guy that does GCW. That's the guy that gets the clout. That's the Jordan Oliver kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? The guy
yeah.
that can do special moves, the ricochet. The guy like that, that's the guy that generates the buzz. So they looked at a bunch of heavyweights and was like, these are guys that should be featured because the heavyweight is dying. It's a dying breed. The heavyweight guy is just, it's not what it was back in the 90s. It's not what it was back in the early 2000s. The business has gotten smaller, faster, quicker, more athletic. And I remember Scott Hall saying the things that they make them do at the performance center. If they did that shit back in the '80s, there would be none of the wrestlers you love now would have never made it. It
Yep.
it was just a different breed, and the Maximos they saw the heavyweights had potential, and that's why they grabbed me. That's why they grabbed the Joey Conway. Joey Conway is a special dude, man. He could grab you. He could grab you from the moment he comes out the curtain. You got a Hamlet Hurts whose character is just I don't know what the hell, but it's special. That character should be on TV. It's a special character, man. And Steve Pena is another guy who on the Hispanic wrestler list is 23rd in the world. 23rd in the world. You know how special that is? I was happy when I was rated 70, I think, 71, 72, and
Mm.
best in the world out of 500. I was like, all right, cool. Let's keep going. I'm looking Steve Pena is number 23, man. Like that's the stock that the Maximals look at. And to put that together, a bunch of us guys that know we could be at the top, the way we market, no one markets like PJ Savage, logo, promos, the sirens. I'm the whole package, and that's what promotions get for me. No one markets like I do. No one promotes like I do. And then you get a different animal when I walk through the curtain. And the Maximals put all of that together. And it was like, here, take it. Look what this does. And I remember I always tell promoters this. I always tell people this. You're going to put me on the show. All I need is a chance. I don't need a promise. I don't need a big payday. I don't need the glitz and the glamour. Just give me a chance to walk through your curtain. I don't care if your curtain's a garbage bag. I don't care if it's coming down a big stage with a ramp and some pyro behind me. I'm gonna make the same impact that I can, no matter the case. And the Maximals know that, man. They know what stock this is. And the Maximo legacy is gonna be carried on through PJ Savage. Many, many years.
So, if my fans would like to pick up any Savage merchandise, where can they find it? And where can they find you on social media?
On social media, everything is at PJ Savage underscore everything. Everything is at PJ Savage. I think my TikTok, who someone else runs my TikTok, I can't do it. I'm an old school dude. I don't even know how TikTok works, man. My TikTok is TikTok. I said TikTok. That's how you know I'm old. My TikTok is PJ Effin Savage, and my YouTube page, go subscribe. It's at PJ Savage, and for the merch, everything right now is at prowrestlingtees.com/PJ Savage. And I got a new batch of merch coming out next month. I cannot wait till you see the new era of the stuff that I got coming out. So cool, so dope. The new 8x10s that are coming out are really cool. I'm getting slam buddies made, so I got a whole
Oh,
bunch of stuff coming
I
out.
got a few of them here. I got Danny Moe and Facade I bought when I was in Jersey at ISPW. Got them.
Yeah,
Got
man, they're awesome, bro. And I gotta. For some reason, it's so weird, man. Like PJ Savage is this big guy, all full of intensity and passion and craziness. And I'm Savage, and my whole moniker is making you bleed and making you feel it, knocking your sleep out. And I have a heavy kids following. I just do. I just do. That's why I had Cool Community, one of the logos that like looked a little cartoonish for the
yeah.
kids, man. But I have a heavy kids following, and the Slam Buddies is for them. So
It's funny when I bought Danny's and Facades, I was like, if I buy just Danny's, I'm gonna be a creep. I gotta buy both. I
it's
gotta
kind of
feel.
like a
I don't
combo
want
package
to.
anyway.
Yeah, I was at the table and Danny was looking at me. Facade was looking at me. I'm like, how much for this one? And she's like, oh, that one. And I'm like, how much for that one? And I'm like, how much for both? And they're like, "Oh, it's this much." I was like, "All right, I'll get both." In my head, I'm like, "Don't be a weird Joe, just buy both,
Yeah, buy
just buy
both.
both."
Buy both.
And then I
Buy
went to
both.
a small show in Allentown, PA, and this is Autumn Breeze. She gave me one of her armbands. I bought her buddy, and she gave me an armband. She's like a Pennsylvania. She's been in the business for like 21 years or
Awesome.
something like
Yeah, yeah.
that.
I know the
Autumn
name. I know
Breeze,
that name.
that's her name. Autumn Breeze. Sweet lady. She's on Facebook, but she's under her real name, Deb. Her name's Deb on Facebook. I'm like, Deb, you just killed kayfabe.
Just killed it. Just killed the game. Kill the game.
She's like, I don't care, Joe. I'm like, okay. Um. So with the end of the year for dudes at Ringside, if you could write a letter to your younger self, what would it say in that letter?
Don't be afraid to become a superhero. Don't. You read the comics, you watch the movies, you watch the superheroes run out on TV. You had superheroes named Batman, Spider-Man, Spawn, The Rock, Stone Cold, Bret Hart. You can be one of them. Don't deter yourself. Don't tell yourself you can't. I grew up in New York City. I'm a Puerto Rican guy from New York. So I'm Puerto Rican and Irish from New York City, and you're not supposed to be anything. It's like you get told from the moment you're born, the cab's gonna skip you by. I remember I had my fifth grade teacher tell me, go get a trade. You're not gonna amount to nothing. I swear to you, bro. I
What?
swear. Yeah, man. It was in the inner city, man. You don't the opportunities aren't afforded to you. I don't think I even went to a school that had a football team or a baseball team. I would have to go to rec leagues and do other things. And it's growing up in the city was hard. And you get told pretty early on that like you're not gonna be nothing. And that's why for me, I didn't even start even looking to go train until I was like 24, 25. And it was just like I went through life. I was young. I was stupid. I made a lot of mistakes. I had my daughter when I was 17, my first daughter. So it was like I had to grow up real quick, real quick, man. I dropped out of school to get a full time job to provide for my daughter. Like I had to.
Wow.
I just had to. That was my mentality, and that fed into more of like, yeah, you're never gonna leave your block. You're always gonna be here. Go grandfather in that apartment because you're never leaving it. So it
Mm,
was like, if I could write a letter to my younger self, I would write that letter and go, you can be anything you want. That's the main message. That's how my kids, man. My kids, my oldest son Avery walks around. He's like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to do this. I want to be a scientist. Every time I grab him by the face and I go, you can be anything you want. Whatever you decide on it, Dad's gonna help you get there. There's a cool video I had shared to my Facebook post, I think the other day. Andrew Schultz is a comedian, and he took his pops into Madison Square Garden and onto the Knicks court. And he was like, he choked up. It was a powerful video. And he told his dad, he was like, every time I told all of my friends and family members I was going to headline Madison Square Garden, they all laughed at me. And when I told you, Dad, you were the first person that looked me in my eyes and said, and I'll be there. And he was like, Dad, guess what? I'm headlining Madison Square Garden.
mm.
That's the story I want my kids to tell. Like my dad believed in me, but I want them to say, Dad headline Madison Square Garden. Now it's my turn. Like that's the story of us savages, man. We're out to get
That's
everything.
beautiful, Savage. I love that. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to help me send off dudes at ringside at the end of season 3. Thank you, Savage. I really appreciate it. Please tell your wrestling friends, and if so, people that are watching this video, if you have not subscribed to PJ Savage YouTube channel, do it. Push that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell with a nice super kick. And if you're not subscribed to the Joe Panther Variety Show, what are you waiting for? Subscribe right now. Don't forget to like the video. And I'm Joe Panther the Third. Your
And
turn.
I'm PJ Savage. Catch me
And
everywhere,
we
man.
will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.